So today I'm going to explain the ins, outs, and abouts of XML. XML stands for Extensible Markup Language, and it's basically a string of characters that's divided into markup and content, where markup is the tags and the content is the data stored within the tags. And it's just a bunch of information that's stored into your own pre-made tags. So HTML, which stands for Hypertext Markup Language, has its own set of predefined tags, and with XML you're allowed to create your own to specify whatever purpose you're trying to complete. And it allows for usability over the internet, and you can format for RSS, SOAP, and much more. You can use XML with a parser, such as you could parse Java to XML, and you're allowed to have XML be read in Java, and the XML is called via a parser, such as the Sax parser, and it's basically just a bunch of software that's written for the XML information to be sent, received, or displayed onto another browser or program or anything else you need. And there's a specific set of rules for formatting documents, which is specified by the document type definition, and it's also very similar to HTML. XML is formatted by having markup and content, where the markup is stored. The markup is the tags, and the content is everything stored within the tags. And at the beginning of each XML statement, you need to have an opening tag that declares the XML, which is just some lovely string of code at the top. You could just copy and paste it from Wikipedia, and there you have it. And it doesn't have a closing tag. And each markup is constructed by starting with an opening tag, such as it's a little less than sign, and then you put your content in there, and then the greater than sign. And it needs to have an ending tag, which you need to have a less than sign, and then a slash, and then your tag that's the same as the opening tag. It's kind of similar to HTML, except the HTML tags are predefined, as to when XML tags, you choose the name of the tag and how you want to organize the content. You could even have an empty element tag, such as blah or whatever, and it's just a less than sign, your tag, and then a slash, and then the greater than sign. And it serves a similar purpose to a comment, but a comment tag is defined differently, but I don't really use empty tags because I don't really see a purpose to them. But either way, XML is the logical component of the document that needs to have a matching starting and ending tag, or an empty element tag. And elements within other elements between the starting and ending tags are called child elements. XML also contains attributes. And for example, in an image source tag in HTML or XML, there's two attributes in that, the src and the alt part. And you can also have an attribute associated with a specific value. For example, if you have something such as less than sign number equals quote 3 greater than sign connect to XYZ or something like that, the value contained in the quotes would be considered the value, and the attribute would be everything stored within the tag. And you could also use escape functions such as an and sign, quote, less than sign, greater than sign, and they're all legal entities because they're part of the Unicode. XML can be well-formed and valid, and in order for XML to be well-formed, it needs to follow a specific list of syntax rules specified by the document type definition, or the DTD for short. For example, it needs to have certain characteristics, such as having the element tags coded properly, or having the element tags match case-wise because it's case-sensitive, and there needs to be a root element contained within all the other elements that specifies one entity. And in order to be valid, the document needs to contain a reference to the document type definition, as well as following a specified list of grammar rules. And there's also validators online that check for validity, but if there's an error, then the error is reported to the system and your program continues to process as is. And also, all tags need to be placed properly. And note that XML absolutely has to be well-formed. It is absolutely super duper mandatory, but it's not mandatory for it to be valid because the program will still run if it's not valid. This means to clarify that well-formed documents can be invalid, but not vice versa. Absolutely not. And then XML and HTML are similar, but they all have their differences. And XML can transport, store, and organize the data and carry the information, while the purpose of HTML is to display the data and focus on the aesthetics. And XML does not display any content whatever, and as I described before, in order to have XML be displayed, you could use a parser such as the Java parser I mentioned previously, and then you could display the XML data. And it's only used for organization. And even though XML and HTML are both markup languages, they are designed with different goals in mind. But XML does not replace HTML, but it complements it. And another major difference is that the tags are predefined as opposed to the XML, where tags are created however you'd like them to be. XML has its own set of advantages as well. And not having predefined tags is a good thing because that way the author can define his or her own document structure. And because of the creation of your own document structure, it's way easier to read and understand than HTML is. And it's also found all over the place, such as the web, and it's very common for data transmission between applications. And it even allows these applications to access your data, even ones that assist people with disabilities, such as having a program to allow blind people to read Braille. And also, XML documents can embed multiple data types easily, such as a Java applet. XML has some criticisms as well. For example, some people criticize XML for being very complex, especially when needing to be mapped to a database. And also, since it's a self-describing language, the tags are not defined like in HTML. XML has a format similar to HTML, as I described before, and there's a certain way that it's formatted, as shown in this lovely PowerPoint slide. And if, for example, this code was ended with a /person instead of /people, it would be invalid because the ending tags need to match. And also, there's no empty tags in this example because I really don't see a point for using empty tags. I've never really used them before. And if there's some good purpose out there to use XML tags, I'm no super duper expert. So it's up to the programmer and whatever they want to do. And the syntax rules of XML are not too difficult as opposed to other programming languages. And when you're doing XML, they need to have an opening and closing tag. And if there's no opening tag or no closing tag, then your code's invalid. And XML tags are case sensitive. And for example, if the tag started with a capital P and ended with a lowercase p, it wouldn't be valid because you need to have the same case in your tags. And then also the XML elements need to be properly nested. And in order for it to not be properly nested, you may have the ending tags and closing tags mixed up, and they also need to start and end in the same order in which they began. And then they also need to have a root element, in which, in this example, people would be the root element. And then the names would be a child class, and then name 1 and name 2 would be sub-child classes, just for an example. And then the main class is the parent class. And then XML attribute values need to be quoted, but I didn't use any attributes in this example. And basically, it's similar to HTML. For example, when you're using an image source tag equals quote something or another, you have to have quotes in order to define that it's an attribute. And then also, you're allowed to use escape sequences such as the less than sign, greater than sign, and sign, apostrophe sign, and quote. And as long as it follows the Unicode structure, having escape sequences are legal. And then also, you're able to have comments in XML, and pretty much it's a less than sign, an exclamation point, and 2 hyphens, and then insert your comment here, and then you end it with 2 hyphens and a greater than sign. And then also in XML, white space is preserved because in HTML, it truncates a lot of white space to conserve the white space. But it just allows to have more white space. So that's about it. I hope you enjoyed this lovely presentation, and hopefully you know a lot more about XML. And hopefully you also noticed the Family Guy font, because Family Guy is the best show ever. On a more random note.